Imagine a kingdom. I mean, just picture it. Peace everywhere, prosperity that's almost unbelievable, and a leader whose wisdom, it just draws admiration from all corners of the earth.
Yeah, it sounds like a fantasy, doesn't it? But it's actually a snapshot from ancient history, a real golden age captured right there in the Bible.
And that's what we're doing today, a deep dive into 1 Kings chapter 4. This isn't just some, dry administrative list.
Not at all. It's this rich tapestry. It's woven with some really profound truths about leadership, about what makes a society actually work well, and even about those unseen spiritual forces that are, always at play.
So our mission today is to really unpack the most important nuggets of knowledge, the key insights from this text. We want to help you understand how these ancient dynamics, well, they still resonate today.
Exactly. Offering you a shortcut maybe to being truly well-informed, not just about history, but about these timeless principles that govern success and challenge, really in any era, from a king's court back then to, a boardroom today.
And to really dig in, we've pulled from quite a stack of insightful sources. We've got direct translations, of course, but also deep historical analyses, theological commentaries.
Right. We looked at detailed administrative breakdowns that really show Solomon's genius for organization, alongside these profound spiritual interpretations that shine a light on the unseen battles happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, all designed to bring you a really comprehensive and hopefully engaging exploration of Solomon's reign, which was, let's face it, pretty unparalleled.
Definitely.
So let's get into it. Let's set the stage for what everyone calls Solomon's golden age.
Yeah, that's the perfect starting point. Because 1 Kings 4 gives us this incredibly detailed snapshot of the kingdom of Israel right at the absolute peak of its power and influence under King Solomon.
And this comes right after his famous prayer for wisdom in chapter 3, right?
Exactly. It's the direct result, really. What emerges is this picture of a nation experiencing just unprecedented prosperity, deep peace, and a level of societal order that was, frankly, remarkable for the ancient world.
It feels like more than just history.
Oh, absolutely. It's like a living testament to what wise leadership, guided by divine insight and committed to core principles, can actually achieve, transforming this historically, fragmented society into a real economic and cultural powerhouse.
And the chapter uses that iconic phrase, doesn't it? The one that paints such an incredibly peaceful picture for us.
You mean Judah and Israel lived in safety, every man under his vine and under his fig tree.
From Dan even to Beersheba, all the days of Solomon. Yeah. When you hear that, it just evokes such a deep sense of contentment, doesn't it?
It really does. And that phrase, it's not just poetic flair or, about having plenty of fruit. It's a classic Hebrew idiom. It's this powerful metaphor for a time of profound peace, widespread prosperity, and this deep personal security and contentment.
So like feeling totally safe in your own home, on your own land.
Exactly. Imagine a society where every single person feels so secure, so unthreatened by invasion from outside or fighting inside, or even economic hardship, that they can literally just sit back and enjoy the fruits of their labor without any fear.
Wow.
It speaks to a profound sense of psychological well-being and stability, a really stark contrast to the constant anxieties that plagued most ancient societies.
So it's definitely not just about physical safety then, it's deeper. It's the psychological and social state of being.
Precisely.
What was the ripple effect of living like that? I mean, for the average person?
Well, the psychological impact would have been immense. It fosters this deep sense of security, of belonging. It frees people from that constant worry about just surviving day to day or the safety of their families.
And that freedom must change things.
It changes everything. That kind of freedom from fear isn't just a nice to have. It's the actual bedrock upon which a society can truly flourish. When people aren't constantly on guard, their mental energy is, it's liberated.
So they can think about other things.
Exactly. Creativity, innovation. They aren't stifled by anxiety. Instead, they can actually blossom. Trust starts to grow, trust within the community, trust towards the leadership. That contributes to a genuinely healthy, functional society.
It makes sense if you're not just focused on survival.
Right. You can invest in your life, your family, your community. And that leads to overall societal growth and progress, a virtuous cycle.
And it sounds like this wasn't just luck. It wasn't accidental. It feels like it was by design, maybe. Divine design.
That's exactly how the text presents it. It explicitly attributes this incredible stability and abundance directly to Solomon's God-given wisdom. He didn't just stumble into this golden age.
He applied the wisdom he asked for.
Yes, he consciously applied this extraordinary wisdom to every single facet of his administration, his diplomacy. This period is consistently shown as the absolute pinnacle of God's favor for Israel.
Like a demonstration.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Demonstrating what happens when a nation and its leadership are cultivated by God because of their obedience and faithfulness. It's a powerful illustration of how applying divine principles, even through human leadership, can totally transform a nation.
From fractured to a powerhouse.
Exactly. An economic and cultural powerhouse.
That's a profound thought, and it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What truly contributes to that feeling of security and well-being in our own communities today? It's clearly not just about having money or a strong military, is it? It's that underlying sense of, like, psychological freedom from anxiety and fear that lets people actually thrive.
That's the core of it, I think.
So what would it really mean for a society today to truly live under its own vine and fig tree? To be so secure and content that people are free to simply enjoy their lives without that constant nagging worry?
It's a powerful ideal to strive for.
Okay, so we've painted this idyllic picture of Solomon's golden age peace, prosperity, everyone under their vine and fig tree. But what's really fascinating is how it was built. It wasn't just good vibes. It had this remarkably sophisticated foundation.
Right, a real engine of empire, as you put it earlier. And it was powered by Solomon's administrative genius. That's a crucial point.
How do we see that genius in action in chapter 4?
Well, one of the clearest, most tangible indicators is his ability to establish this highly sophisticated centralized bureaucracy. The chapter gives us this remarkably detailed list of his chief officials.
Not just a king ruling alone.
Far from it. This list paints a vivid picture of a government structure that brought incredible stability to a nation that was previously used to a more decentralized, sort of tribal system.
So this was new for Israel.
Absolutely. It wasn't just a new era for Israel. It was practically a revolution in governance for the entire ancient Near East at that time. Really advanced stuff.
Okay, let's break down some of these key roles then, because they really show the scope and, honestly, the foresight that went into setting up his administration.
Definitely. So right at the top, handling the religious side, ensuring that spiritual continuity and authority, you had Azariah, son of Zadok, the priest. Hugely important role.
Maintaining that connection to God's law and worship.
Precisely. Then for the absolutely vital administrative tasks, I mean, you can't run an empire without paperwork. You had Elihoreph and Ahijah, the sons of Shisha. They were the court secretaries or scribes.
So like the record keepers.
Exactly. Their role was paramount for recording and managing all official documents, correspondence, decrees. Think of them as running the royal archives and the communications hub. Essential.
Okay, who else?
Then we had Jehoshaphat, son of Ahilud. He was the royal historian or recorder. Now, this sounds maybe a bit passive, but think of him more like the chief chronicler, the one meticulously recording events, maintaining critical records, and essentially shaping the official narrative of the kingdom.
So controlling the story, in a way.
In a significant way, yes. It was a role with far more influence than just, taking minutes at meetings.
Right. And you can't have a stable kingdom, especially back then, without a strong military presence.
Indeed. And for that, you had Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, as the commander of the army. He was known for his fierce loyalty and was instrumental in supporting Solomon's actual rise to the throne earlier.
Ah, so a trusted ally.
A very trusted ally. His command highlights how important military leadership was for maintaining the peace and security that defined this whole era. He was both a deterrent to enemies and a force for internal order.
Okay, now the text mentions 2 priests, Zadok and Abiathar. That seems a bit unusual.
It is interesting. Our sources point out that Abiathar had a complex status. He had actually been removed from his main priestly duties because he backed Adonijah, Solomon's rival brother, for the throne.
So why is he still listed here?
Well, his inclusion, even if it was maybe just an honorary title or retaining some dignity, could hint at Solomon's political shrewdness. Maybe consolidating power, maybe maintaining a semblance of unity, or perhaps just showing respect to an elder figure even after he'd been sidelined. It shows complexity.
Yeah, that highlights the intricate political maneuvering, even within these religious roles. What about managing the regions? This was a big kingdom now.
Absolutely. And that responsibility fell to Azariah, son of Nathan. He presided over the 12 district governors. This points to a remarkably structured system of regional administration and, crucially, oversight from the center.
So keeping tabs on the whole operation.
Exactly. Then there was Zebud, son of Nathan, who was also a priest, interestingly. He was a trusted advisor to the king, often called the king's friend.
King's friend. That sounds pretty close.
It signifies an incredibly close personal and advisory relationship. It kind of blurs the lines between spiritual counsel and direct political influence, right there at the very heart of royal power.
And running the palace itself? That must have been a huge job.
Massive. That was Ahishar. He was the manager of palace affairs, overseeing the king's entire colossal household. Everything from daily logistics and supplies to royal protocol and managing staff.
Okay, and there's one more name here that our sources flag as, well, potentially problematic even in this golden age.
Yes, that would be Adoniram, son of Abda. He was in charge of the labor force, or more pointedly, the forced labor.
Forced labor, that sounds ominous.
It is a truly crucial detail. On the one hand, it speaks to the efficiency and sheer scale of Solomon's ambitious building projects, the temple, his own palace, fortifications across the land. These required a huge workforce. But it also subtly flags a system that could, and likely did, become exploitative. This heavy reliance on forced labor, conscripted work, would unfortunately become a major source of social inequality and resentment.
Foreshadowing trouble down the line.
Exactly. It became a major point of contention and ultimately a key catalyst for the kingdom splitting in two after Solomon's reign. So even here, amidst all the glory, you see this potential crack in the golden facade.
Wow. So this wasn't just, a handful of advisors. This was a comprehensive, almost modern-looking government framework for its time. Unprecedented, really.
Absolutely. This whole elaborate structure demonstrates a completely new era of centralized, organized government. It brought profound stability to a nation that, remember, had previously been more like a loose confederation of tribes.
And it all reflects Solomon's wisdom.
Profoundly. It reflects his great wisdom not just in picking capable people, but in actually designing a system that emphasized delegation, specialization, clear roles, and effective organization. He clearly understood that even God's blessings need careful human stewardship and solid infrastructure to be fully realized and sustained.
It wasn't just about ruling, it was about building an infrastructure of peace and prosperity.
That's a perfect way to put it.
And a huge part of that infrastructure you mentioned were the 12 district governors. This sounds like an absolute logistical masterpiece for ensuring the kingdom ran smoothly.
It truly was a stroke of administrative genius for the time. Their main role, and this was highly innovative, was that each governor was responsible for providing all the food and provisions for the king's massive household, but only for 1 month out of the year.
So rotating the burden.
Exactly. This ensured a continuous, efficient, and importantly, evenly distributed supply chain for the huge royal court and everyone associated with it. It minimized the strain on any single region. Very clever.
And the sources actually give us some names and regions, which kind of helps visualize the sheer reach and the meticulous planning involved.
Right. We hear about figures like Ben-Hur up in the hill country of Ephraim, Ben-Decker over in Makaz, and Ben-Hesed in Araboth. Then you have Ben-Abinadab in Naphath Dor.
And he had a connection to Solomon, didn't he?
Yes, he was married to Solomon's daughter Taphath, which is a clear example of how these appointments weren't just about administrative skill, they were also about cementing political alliances.
Smart move. Who else is mentioned?
There's Baana, son of Ahilud, covering Tanakh and Megiddo, strategic areas. Ben-Geber in Ramoth-Gilead, across the Jordan. Ahinadab, son of Iddo in Mahanaim, another key Transjordanian city.
And more family ties.
Yes. Ahimaaz was in Naphtali, and he was married to Basemath, another of Solomon's daughters. Then you had Bana, son of Hushai in Asher, up north. Jehoshaphat, son of Peruah in Issachar. Shimei, son of Elah in Benjamin, right near Jerusalem. And finally, Geber, son of Uri in Gilead. He's noted as managing his entire large district all by himself, which suggests he was particularly capable.
The fact that they specifically mention these marriages to Solomon's daughters, it really suggests these weren't just bureaucratic postings, they were deeply strategic.
Oh, absolutely. These appointments were strategically designed. Notice they weren't strictly based on the old tribal lines. They were based more on geography and administrative logic. This shows a really pragmatic, organized approach to taxation and resource management. Functionality over tradition.
And the marriages sealed the deal, ensuring loyalty.
Almost certainly. Marrying his daughters into these regional leadership roles was a very clever way to forge strong political alliances, strengthening the stability of his rule by tying powerful regional families directly to the royal house. It was smart politics woven into smart administration.
So what was the overall impact of this district system?
Immense. It ensured the king's vast needs were met efficiently. It facilitated a unified system for distributing resources across the whole kingdom. And it really demonstrated a unified nation where each region contributed, fairly equitably to the whole. This was the absolute hallmark of a highly organized, efficient, and politically savvy government.
The sheer scale of Solomon's operation, as described here, is just staggering. The sources talk about huge population growth and this immense area he ruled over. It sounds like ancient promises being fulfilled.
It does. The text explicitly says the people of Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sand on the seashore. Now, that's obviously poetic language, but it reflects a real remarkable population boom during Solomon's reign.
More than just numbers, though.
Oh, yes. More profoundly, it's presented as a direct fulfillment of God's covenant promises to Abraham, way back in Genesis, about his descendants becoming incredibly numerous. It was like a tangible, visible sign of God's favor and faithfulness being played out right there in history.
And his actual rule, his dominion, it went far beyond Israel's traditional borders, didn't it? It sounds like he was a regional superpower.
He absolutely was. The text says Solomon ruled over all the kingdoms from the Euphrates River way out east in Mesopotamia, stretching west all the way to the land of the Philistines on the Mediterranean coast, and then south, right down to the border of Egypt. That's a vast territory.
And these other kingdoms paid him tribute.
Yes. The conquered peoples, or perhaps vassal states, sent him tribute and continued to serve him throughout his lifetime. This indicates a huge sphere of influence and economic control. And crucially, the text emphasizes there was peace throughout this entire vast land during his reign, a rare moment of regional stability with Israel clearly at the top.
And to support such an expansive kingdom with that massive court and military, the daily needs must have been enormous. What was the scale of the royal household's consumption? It must have been an incredible logistical challenge just to feed everyone.
The daily food requirements listed for Solomon's palace are, well, exceptionally large. They really reveal the massive scale of his court. We're talking about something like 185 bushels of choice flour, plus another 375 bushels of regular meal every single day.
Just the flour and meal?
Just the flour and meal. Then for meat, the daily list includes 10 prime grain-fed cattle, the best quality, plus 20 pasture-fed cattle, and 100 sheep or goats. And that's not all. It also mentions deer, gazelles, roebucks, and various choice fowls.
Wow, that's a lot of food. Who was eating all this?
It's crucial to understand this wasn't just for Solomon himself, obviously. This was for his entire household and the royal court. That would have included hundreds, maybe even thousands, of officials, wives, concubines, servants, guests, palace guards, administrators, their families, their entourages. It speaks to a level of sustained abundance that was almost unimaginable in the ancient world.
And he also maintained this formidable military, especially the chariots and horsemen. That must have also required vast resources.
Yes. The text specifically mentions Solomon had 40,000 stalls for his chariot horses and 12,000 horsemen, or cavalry troopers. This was a massive, state-of-the-art military force for the time, a real symbol of strength and royal power.
And the logistics worked for them too.
Apparently so. The efficient logistical system was right there. Those district governors, during their assigned month, faithfully provided all the necessary barley and straw for these thousands of royal horses kept in the stables. It ensured the kingdom's military readiness was maintained seamlessly.
So this whole picture, the growth, the huge territory, the sophisticated administration, the sheer abundance, this is Solomon's reign at its peak.
Exactly. This reflects the early to middle years of Solomon's 40-year reign, roughly dated around 1015 to 975 BC. It truly was a unique period of peace, prosperity, and an incredibly advanced governmental system for the ancient Near East.
It's just incredible to think about the complexity and the coordination needed for all of that. It really makes you pause. For you listening, what aspects of this administrative model, this careful organization, the strategic delegation could maybe inspire effective organization in modern settings, like businesses or government bodies, or maybe even just managing your own personal life? What really stands out to you about the sheer scale and the efficiency of Solomon's operation back then?
It's worth pondering.
Okay, beyond the truly impressive administration and the sheer scale of his kingdom, the real source, the wellspring of Solomon's power was something much deeper, wasn't it? It was his unparalleled, God-given wisdom.
Absolutely. That's the foundation the text keeps coming back to. The sources make it crystal clear that God gave Solomon great wisdom and understanding and knowledge too vast to be measured. It's even described profoundly as largeness of heart.
Largeness of heart. What does that mean exactly? Is it just being kind?
It's more than just kindness or empathy. though it might include that.
Yeah.
In this context, it signifies an expansive, almost boundless mental and spiritual capacity. Think of it like having divinely enlarged mental bandwidth.
Okay.
It allowed him to see connections, patterns, and solutions that just eluded everyone else. It wasn't merely a high IQ or having memorized a lot of facts. It was this profound spiritual gift, a tangible manifestation of God's mind, if you will, operating through him.
So he could grasp complex situations in a unique way.
Exactly. It enabled him to understand and analyze incredibly complex situations with unparalleled discernment, going far beyond the typical scope or ability of even a very capable king. It was wisdom on a different level.
And this wisdom wasn't just significant. The text claims it was actually superior to everyone else's, even the famous wise men of the time.
Yes, it explicitly emphasizes that he was wiser than anyone else. And it specifically names names to make the point that renowned wise men of the East, which often referred to Mesopotamia or Arabia, and the sages of Egypt, famous for their ancient wisdom traditions.
Does it mention specific individuals?
It does. It mentions Ethan the Ezrahite, who tradition links to Psalm 89, a very wise psalm, and Heman, also an Ezrahite, linked to Psalm 88. These were major figures. It also mentions Kalkol and Darda, called the sons of Mahol, who were also known paragons of wisdom.
So basically the intellectual and spiritual heavyweights of the era.
Exactly, and the text says Solomon's wisdom surpassed them all. This established him as the preeminent intellectual and spiritual authority of his age, which in turn massively elevated Israel's standing on the global stage.
And this incredible wisdom wasn't just kept in his head or used only for ruling. It actually translated into a vast intellectual and artistic output, didn't it? Things that still influence us.
Indeed. The text states Solomon composed some 3,000 proverbs. These are those condensed nuggets of practical, divinely inspired wisdom for living well.
Not just clever sayings.
No, they're presented as deep principles for navigating life, relationships, society, faith. And he also wrote 1,005 songs, showcasing his poetic and artistic gifts. This reveals a breadth of knowledge and understanding across diverse fields, extending far beyond just typical royal duties. His wisdom was holistic, multifaceted.
And his knowledge wasn't just philosophical or artistic, it extended to the natural world too, in a really detailed way.
Amazingly so. It says he could speak with profound authority and insight about all kinds of plants. Everything from the majestic cedar of Lebanon, a symbol of grandeur and strength, right down to the tiny hyssop plant that grows out of cracks in a wall.
From the greatest to the smallest.
Exactly. It symbolizes his comprehensive attention to detail across all of God's creation. His understanding wasn't superficial, it was deep. And it wasn't just plants. He also spoke extensively about animals, birds, reptiles, and fish. It demonstrates this remarkable, almost encyclopedic understanding of the biological world and its intricate interconnectedness, like an early naturalist, but infused with divine insight.
And the impact of all this wisdom, the governance, the proverbs, the knowledge, it wasn't just local, was it? It went global.
It truly did. His fame, specifically for his wisdom, spread throughout all the surrounding nations. Kings from every nation heard about him and sent ambassadors, often traveling great distances and bearing lavish gifts. For what purpose? Solely to listen to his wisdom, to learn from him, to glean insights.
Yeah, his court became like an international center for wisdom.
Absolutely. It became a hub of learning and diplomacy, attracting respect and attention from across the known world, all because of this extraordinary divine gift of wisdom bestowed upon him. It marked a real zenith in Israel's cultural and intellectual influence.
This really pushes us to think about the nature of wisdom itself. What is true wisdom? Is it just being really smart, intellectually gifted, knowing lots of facts? Or is there, as clearly seems the case with Solomon, a deeper spiritual component that actually drives it, that gives it its power? And maybe more importantly for us listening, how can seeking that kind of divine wisdom guide our decisions today? Not just for kings or presidents, but in the complexities of our everyday lives. How can it enhance our own mental clarity, our psychological well-being?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's presented not just as a gift, but as something sought and applied.
Right. Now, it's absolutely crucial, as you said, to recognize that this incredible peace, this unparalleled prosperity that Judah and Israel enjoyed under Solomon, it wasn't just chalked up to his good management.
No, not at all. It was explicitly attributed, time and again, directly to God's blessing and God's provision.
Yeah.
This really highlights a powerful behind-the-scenes divine activity.
God actively working things out.
Exactly. God actively fulfilling his covenant promises, particularly those made to David, Solomon's father. He was cultivating the nation, rewarding their faithfulness, at least at this stage, and doing it for his own glory. It serves as this profound theological statement about how government, how society can be deeply influenced by divine guidance.
Leading to this amazing prosperity and stability.
Yes, it was God's covenant with David visibly unfolding right there in history.
Duh.
God was showing what could happen when leadership aligned with his purposes.
But, and this is a big but, even in this seemingly perfect golden age, our sources and the text itself reveal that there were these subtle, almost hidden seeds of future problems already being sown. It feels like there was an implicit spiritual battle happening just beneath the surface of all this abundance.
There's a vital point, and one that's often overlooked when people just focus on the glory days. While 1 Kings 4 paints this magnificent picture, the very abundance and the ease that Solomon enjoyed, well, they implicitly contain the seeds of future corruption and spiritual compromise.
How so? What's the danger and blessing?
The temptation for any leader, any person really, in such a position of immense power, incredible wealth, and just widespread adulation is profound. The temptation is towards pride, towards self-reliance, towards starting to believe you achieved it all yourself.
And gradually turning away from the source of the blessing.
Exactly. Turning away from God. It's often a subtle shift, moving from reliance on divine trust to trusting in your own capability, your own wealth, your own military might. Complacency sets in.
So the blessing itself can ironically become a kind of spiritual test. How does that unseen battle then manifest itself? It's not always obvious, is it?
No, it's often incredibly subtle.
Yeah.
The devil's influence frequently works not through, say, a direct, overt assault, but insidiously through the very temptations that naturally come with power and prosperity. It's not usually a frontal attack, but more like a slow erosion of spiritual vigilance, a gradual dulling of conscience, leading eventually towards things like idolatry, maybe not bowing to statues at first, but loving wealth or power more than God. It can lead to moral decline, compromising standards because, well, you feel you're above the rules now, and sadly, we will see this become glaringly evident in the rest of Solomon's story later on.
So it really is a battle for his soul happening behind the scenes.
Absolutely. A subtle behind-the-scenes battle where complacency and the intoxicating allure of worldly success can actually prove far more dangerous in the long run than direct opposition or hardship.
And it's fascinating, isn't it, that the text itself, even right here in this chapter celebrating the Golden Age, provides specific details that seem to foreshadow these very deviations. It's not hiding the potential problems.
Yes, it's a testament to the Bible's realistic and nuanced perspective on human nature and leadership. It doesn't just give us the sanitized version. First, as we mentioned, there's the detail about Adoniram, son of Abda, being in charge of the forced labor.
Right, the conscripted workforce.
While it was probably seen as necessary for Solomon's massive building projects, this system created a clear potential for exploitation and serious social inequality. This implicit social injustice would fester beneath the surface.
Building resentment.
Exactly. Building resentment that would eventually erupt after Solomon's death, becoming a major factor in the northern tribes rebelling and ripping the kingdom apart. It highlights that even in a divinely blessed government, human systems can harbor the seeds of future strife if they aren't managed with deep ethical wisdom and justice.
Okay, what else? There was the point about his military strength.
Yes, the mention of Solomon's vast military, particularly his multiplication of horses and chariots. Remember those numbers. 40,000 stalls for chariot horses, 12,000 horsemen, an incredibly formidable force.
But the law warned against that.
Precisely. Deuteronomy 17.16 explicitly instructs Israel's future kings not to multiply horses for himself, nor to send people back to Egypt to get more horses. This wasn't just about, animal breeding. It was a spiritual command.
What was the principle behind it?
It was a warning against the king putting his trust in military might, in worldly strength, rather than trusting in God's protection and provision. Chariots were the ancient equivalent of tanks, the ultimate symbol of human power. God wanted his king to rely on him, not on horsepower.
So even here, in this era of blessing, Solomon was already subtly shifting his reliance.
It certainly seems that way, shifting from primary divine trust towards reliance on human, worldly power and prestige. This subtly foreshadows his later, much more blatant deviations from God's law, like multiplying wives and accumulating excessive wealth, also warned against in Deuteronomy 17.
It makes you think about those underlying spiritual dynamics.
Absolutely. We have to remember from a biblical perspective, unseen forces, angelic and demonic, are always at work, influencing decisions, attitudes, subtly whispering temptations, especially to those in positions of great power. The harmony and abundance we see here represent a time of spiritual alignment, God's blessing flowing.
But these cracks.
But these cracks in the foundation, the centralization of power becoming potentially oppressive, the forced labor system, the multiplication of horses signifying shifting trust, they all subtly hint at a future spiritual decline, a gradual erosion of the very spiritual foundations that made the kingdom great. It's a powerful reminder that vigilance is needed even, and perhaps especially, in times of peace and prosperity.
So, bringing this forward, what does this all mean for us today? It raises a really profound question. Can blessing itself, success itself, become a spiritual test for individuals, for companies, for nations?
It seems it certainly can.
How does prosperity, if it's unchecked by spiritual vigilance, by humility, create these vulnerabilities? Does it lead inevitably towards things like an unchecked pursuit of luxury, or the buildup of excessive military power, trusting in chariots, or maybe unchecked corporate greed that prioritizes profit over people?
These are direct modern parallels, aren't they?
Yeah. And what are the mental and psychological pitfalls when we, as individuals or societies, start to rely solely on our own resources, our own smarts, our own strength, rather than remembering and trusting the ultimate divine source of all blessings?
It's a warning woven right into the heart of Solomon's success story.
Now, here's where we can shift perspective a bit and connect Solomon's magnificent, yet, as we've seen, ultimately flawed reign to something far greater. We're talking about those timeless threads of allegorical, metaphorical, and especially typological parallels.
Right. These point toward the ultimate perfect kingdom of God. This is a crucial layer for understanding 1 Kings 4, isn't it? Solomon's reign, as truly magnificent as it was, functions in Scripture as a powerful type, a foreshadowing, a preview of the coming messianic kingdom and the reign of Christ himself.
Okay, so how does that typology work? Let's break down some of the key parallels.
Well, first, consider the king's identity. Solomon, whose Hebrew name Shlomo actually means peace, and who is the great son of David, clearly prefigures Jesus. Jesus is the ultimate son of David, the promised Messiah, and he's explicitly called the Prince of Peace in that famous prophecy in Isaiah 9.
So Solomon is the peaceful king, pointing to the Prince of Peace.
Exactly. And while Solomon's reign, his peace, was temporal, limited to his lifetime, Christ's reign and his peace will be eternal, without end. Solomon is the shadow. Christ is the substance.
And what about that powerful image of peace we discussed, every man under his vine and fig tree?
Yes, that widespread peace and profound security during Solomon's best years powerfully prefigures the global absolute peace that the prophets described during Christ's future millennial reign. Micah chapter 4, for instance, speaks of a time when wars will utterly cease, nations won't train for war anymore, and weapons will literally be beaten into farming tools.
A complete reversal of the way things are now.
Total reversal. And that idyllic image of everyone sitting securely under their own vine and fig tree, with no one to make them afraid, that finds its ultimate flawless fulfillment in Christ's kingdom. True peace, true contentment, no fear, no anxiety.
Okay, what about Solomon's famous wisdom and his vast dominion? How do those parallel Christ?
Solomon's unparalleled wisdom, the wisdom that drew kings from all over the earth just to listen to him, unmistakably foreshadows Jesus' perfect, infinite, divine wisdom. Isaiah 11 describes the Messiah judging not by what his eyes see or ears hear, but with perfect righteousness and discernment, understanding even the hidden motives of the heart.
And Jesus himself drew that comparison.
He did. He explicitly said, referring to himself, that something greater than Solomon is here. His wisdom surpasses Solomon's as divinity surpasses humanity. Similarly, Solomon's rule over that vast territory, receiving tribute from surrounding kingdoms, prefigures Jesus' eventual universal dominion over the entire earth.
All nations acknowledging him.
Yes. Psalm 72 and Isaiah 2 paint pictures of all nations acknowledging him as king, streaming to Jerusalem to learn his ways. Solomon's empire was vast for its time, but Christ's kingdom will be truly global and universal.
And the sheer abundance of Solomon's kingdom, those incredible daily provisions we talked about.
That points forward, too. The prosperous kingdom, the abundant material provision, the overflowing food, the fruitful land, all that hints at the spiritual and material abundance that we found in the kingdom of God under Jesus. Prophecies in Amos and Isaiah speak of a time when the land will be incredibly productive, where there will be no lack, and creation itself will be restored to its Edenic fruitfulness. true abundance spiritually and physically.
Even the administration, does that fit the typology?
Interestingly, yes. Even the orderly administration, with Solomon's careful organization of 12 district governors, subtly echoes, perhaps, the 12 tribes of Israel, and even more significantly, the 12 apostles chosen by Jesus to be leaders in his kingdom. It symbolizes the structured yet perfectly harmonious nature of the kingdom under Christ, where glorified saints will reign with him as administrators, as hinted at in places like Revelation.
It's really incredible how these details from so long ago seem packed with future meaning. But you mentioned earlier there's a crucial distinction we have to keep in mind. Solomon's reign wasn't actually perfect.
Absolutely, and this is the critical aspect of typology. It's about foreshadowing, not identical replication. While Solomon's reign was magnificent, divinely blessed in many ways, it was ultimately flawed because he was human, and it was temporary.
It ended and was marred by problems.
Exactly. It was eventually marred by his own serious sins, idolatry, accumulating wives who turned his heart away, moral decline. This led directly to division and strife after his death. The typology is vital because it highlights that the reality in Christ is always greater. It's flawless, it's eternal, it's incorruptible.
So the shadow points to the perfect reality.
Precisely. The magnificent shadow of Solomon's reign points forward to the perfect, unblemished reality of Christ's ultimate kingdom, where peace, wisdom, justice, and abundance will reign eternally without any of those subtle seeds of corruption we saw even in Solomon's best years.
Are there other powerful metaphors or allusions embedded in this chapter, maybe beyond Solomon as a direct type of Christ?
Yes, definitely several worth noting. That description we keep coming back to, Judah and Israel being as numerous as the sand on the seashore, isn't just population statistics. It's a direct, powerful allusion back to God's foundational promise to Abraham in Genesis about his descendants becoming innumerable.
Highlighting covenant faithfulness.
Exactly, showing God keeping his ancient promises. Then, the immense daily provisions for Solomon's court, beyond the typological link to kingdom abundance, can also be seen metaphorically. They represent God's lavish daily sustenance, his spiritual nourishment offered freely through Christ, a constant, overflowing supply for all his people.
And on the flip side, the horses.
Right. Conversely, the multiplication of horses, while representing military might, can symbolize that subtle but significant shift towards relying on human strength, worldly power, rather than divine trust. Psalm 20 explicitly warns, "Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God." Solomon seems to have edged towards the former.
And that largeness of heart.
That phrase representing Solomon's wisdom, it goes beyond just intellect. It represents his vast cognitive and perhaps emotional capacity, enabling him to understand, integrate, and analyze incredibly complex situations with unparalleled breadth and depth, a mind expanded by God.
Thinking about all these parallels and types, it really does bring it to life. How do these ancient foreshadowings give us, concrete hope and perspective today? How do they remind us that God's ultimate plans are secure, that his promises aren't temporary, and that his final reign will be one of perfect peace and justice, unlike even the best human efforts?
They anchor our hope in something far bigger than the ups and downs of history, don't they? They show a consistent divine plan unfolding.
Yeah, they really do. Now let's bring it right into our modern lives. The lessons from 1 Kings 4, from Solomon's golden age, remain incredibly relevant, offering deep insights into leadership, prosperity, and that critical need for spiritual vigilance.
Absolutely. These aren't just ancient history lessons. They're timeless principles for living well, individually and collectively.
So let's start with leadership, which is such a strong theme here. How does Solomon's reign, with both its brilliance and those subtle warnings we talked about, inform our understanding of what makes for wise leadership today?
Well, just as Solomon's God-given wisdom brought that unprecedented peace and prosperity back then, modern societies can certainly learn the critical importance of seeking true wisdom in all leadership roles.
Not just political leaders.
No, definitely not. Whether you're leading a family, a team at work, a volunteer group, a community organization, or yes, an entire government. The chapter powerfully illustrates that effective leadership characterized by careful organization, sound decision-making grounded in good principles, and unwavering integrity is absolutely crucial for the well-being and flourishing of any group.
So good governance still matters immensely.
It fundamentally determines whether a society or any organization thrives or suffers. It underscores the timeless need for ethical, insightful, and frankly, spiritually grounded leaders who understand the profound responsibility they carry. It's about stewardship, not just power.
But the chapter also carries that powerful, almost unsettling warning about the very blessings Solomon enjoyed. That prosperity itself can be a subtle trap, a danger.
Indeed. And this is maybe one of the most counterintuitive but important lessons. While prosperity is undoubtedly a blessing, often a sign of divine favor or good management, the subtle hints in 1 Kings 4 about excess, about reliance on wealth, about the seeds of future compromise, they serve as a potent warning.
A warning against what, specifically?
Against unchecked wealth and pride. These can, and history shows they often do, lead to spiritual decline, to moral compromise, to placing ultimate trust in riches or human ingenuity rather than in God or foundational ethical principles.
That sounds very relevant to today.
It resonates deeply, doesn't it? With modern societies often driven by rampant consumerism, an insatiable pursuit of luxury, status, power, and sometimes sheer self-exaltation. It urges constant vigilance against the insidious pitfalls of materialism and emphasizes the need for balance, for gratitude, for remembering where true value lies.
Can we see this playing out now?
I think so. You could argue it's visible in things like modern arms races, trusting in military might, or the excesses of luxury culture, or perhaps unchecked corporate power that sometimes seems to prioritize profit above all else, even people or the planet. That psychological shift from gratitude for blessings to a sense of entitlement because of success is a constant human danger.
Okay, what about his administrative structure itself, that engine of empire? How does that specific practical model apply to us today?
Solomon's meticulously structured governance provides a really timeless model for effective administration and organization. How do you manage vast resources and complex responsibilities well? You need structure.
So organization is key.
Organization is key. This principle applies universally. Whether you're talking about a huge multinational corporation, a government agency, a nonprofit, or even just managing your own personal finances or household projects, it emphasizes that efficiency, clear structure, sensible delegation, and strong accountability are all indispensable ingredients for success and flourishing.
It's also about stewardship.
Exactly. It highlights the profound importance of stewardship, wisely managing the resources, the talents, the opportunities that have been entrusted to us, whether we see that trust coming from God or just from our circumstances in life. It teaches us that even great potential, even divine gifts, require careful, diligent human effort and organization to fully manifest and be sustained.
And the source of his effectiveness, that divine wisdom, how does the imperative to seek that kind of wisdom apply in our fast-paced, data-driven, often secular modern world?
Well, the divine gift of wisdom to Solomon underscores the profound, enduring importance of seeking a wisdom that goes beyond mere human intellect or just following the latest worldly strategies or data points.
So it contrasts with relying only on our own smarts.
Yes, it contrasts sharply with relying solely on our own intelligence or education or the prevailing cultural trends. It reminds us that true discernment, the ability to understand complex situations deeply, to see underlying principles, to make sound ethical decisions is a precious gift. It's something to be sought after.
And seeking it helps us how?
When we seek wisdom beyond ourselves, whether through prayer, reflection on scripture, seeking counsel from wise people, learning from history, it not only guides us towards better, more ethical choices, but it also enhances our mental and psychological health. It can lead to greater clarity, deeper peace of mind, and more resilience when we face the inevitable challenges of modern life.
That vision of everyone living safely under his own vine and his own fig tree, it's such a powerful image of societal peace and genuine security. How can we even begin to apply that ideal today?
It is a powerful ideal, and it provides a goal for modern societies striving for true peace and security for all their citizens. It implies more than just, say, good laws and a strong defense force, though those might be part of it.
What else does it imply?
It implies fostering a populace that feels genuinely secure, that is perhaps more content with sufficiency rather than constant striving for excess, a society where people feel safe enough to invest in their lives, their families, their communities. It speaks to that profound sense of psychological well-being we discussed.
So it encourages unity.
Absolutely. This vision encourages unity, harmonious working together, whether that's in families, local communities, workplaces, or faith contexts. It really speaks to a society where people are substantially free from crushing anxiety and fear, free to pursue their passions, build relationships, and enjoy the fruits of their labor without constant worry or threat. It's a vision of holistic societal health.
And finally, reflecting back on the chapter, what about the social implications? Especially given that detail about forced labor, which, as you said, foreshadowed future division. What's the lesson there for us?
It's a crucial balancing point. Solomon's organized administration certainly facilitated efficient resource distribution and a well-ordered society, which are definite social positives. However, that system of forced labor highlights how even seemingly efficient systems can contain potential for serious social inequality and exploitation.
And that became a major problem later.
It became a primary cause of the kingdom's split. So it reminds us that even good governance, even in times of great national prosperity, must constantly guard against exploitation. It must actively strive for justice and equity for all citizens, not just the elites or the majority.
So a flourishing society needs to watch out for those imbalances.
Yes, a truly flourishing society in any era must ensure that its foundational structures, its economic systems, its laws do not create or perpetuate systemic social imbalances or injustices. It's that subtle but powerful warning about the potential shadow side of immense power and prosperity, urging constant vigilance against the disenfranchisement or exploitation of any segment of society. Justice is key to long-term stability.
So, thinking about all this, what does it really mean for you listening right now? How can we, as individuals, and maybe collectively as a society, learn from Solomon's golden age both the triumphs and the warnings? How do we cultivate genuine wisdom, steward our blessings and successes responsibly, and remain vigilant against those subtle temptations of power, pride, and prosperity in our own lives? How do we ensure our success doesn't become our undoing?
Those are the takeaways, aren't they? We've taken quite a deep dive into 1 Kings chapter 4 today. We've explored the rich historical backdrop of Solomon's golden age, unpacked that intricate administrative machinery that supported it all, and marveled at the unparalleled wisdom that really defined his early reign.
Yeah, and we've also tried to peer behind the scenes a bit at those subtle spiritual battles at play, recognizing God's active hand in the blessing, but also the insidious potential for temptation that comes with success. And we've drawn some of those profound allegorical connections to the ultimate perfect reign of Christ.
And this whole deep dive into Solomon's magnificent kingdom, with all its undeniable brilliance, but also its inherent cautionary warnings, it really does challenge us to reflect, doesn't it?
Oh.
Are we individually and collectively truly seeking the kind of wisdom that brings lasting peace, true prosperity, genuine security?
Or are we, maybe more often than we realize, susceptible to the very blessings, the very successes that once uplifted us? Are we like Solomon in his later years, letting abundance lead us astray?
It's a searching question. What crucial lessons from this ancient golden age can you personally apply to cultivate peace, security, and true flourishing in your own sphere of influence today? How can you guard against not just the external threats, but also that subtle internal erosion of character that can come from ease or success?
It makes you consider how your actions, your leadership style, even in small ways, and your pursuit of wisdom or maybe your complacency can have really far-reaching influences, just as they did in Solomon's time, for good or for ill.
Absolutely. The story of Solomon's reign, with its breathtaking brilliance and its sobering warnings, invites every one of us to thoughtfully, intentionally steward the gifts, the resources, the opportunities entrusted to us. And perhaps most importantly, to always keep looking towards the ultimate fulfillment of God's perfect, just, and eternal kingdom, which Solomon's reign only faintly foreshadowed.